Hey guys, Sam here with you on Thursday, October 11th. And since it's a Thursday and we would be looking at traditional assets, given the volatility we had yesterday in the stock indexes and across the broader market, seemed like a perfect day to do an update here on both the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. So I've got here, this is the Nasdaq. Now I'm using the futures, the continuous contract here, so that'll wait the front and put the front month in so we can get the history here rather than using the individual futures contract. So I think to a large degree the challenge is how this is being counted here. So I continue to think what we have here is an ABC, and we get an expanded B wave here because of that three-wave structure. And this, while it didn't make the 50, we did have this here. So we got to 38, that's to the tick, right? So it's hard to ignore that, right? So, I mean, there is the possibility that this is some sort of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's a 1, 2, and this was the big 3. But the subdivision here doesn't support that thinking because we have an impulse here, right? We do finish with an ending diagonal, but this is an impulsive structure as we don't overlap the 1. So I look at that and go, all right, well, so this was some sort of a correction. Now we've moved up here. We've had a complete impulse. Is that the top? Well, I'm not ready to go there yet. So just pulling from the proposed start of this five-wave structure up to the pivot. Well, you know, so there you say, okay, well, we broke the 50. Oh, okay, yeah, we broke the 50. Now, remember, an algorithm doesn't care about the Elliott count. It's just going to use the dominant pivot. So if we go back one, you know, it's kind of interesting, right? So we're right to the 50. Here's point of control. Now this is visible range. So, but just essentially working from this swing to this swing. Here we are, right, the 50 and the point of control, and it's really right in line with where you might just visually look to anticipate that support, right? So as we come into this area here, prior support, resistance becomes support, again support. Now, if we were to get a breakdown here, then I think we'd really have the start of a pretty substantial trend change here. So just working from this last leg that we've been in since, when is it, February? Yeah, February of this year. All right, so something topped up there. So where is the trade opportunity? Well, you got to respect the longer-term trend here that we are still, all we've done is go from a dominant swing to a swing low to a swing high and tagged a 50 right at the point of control. So not ready to say top is in and we're going substantially lower, right? You'd have to pull up a daily and make a case there. But we can look at this, and so let's go to the 30-minute, see what this looks like along here. So I think now take note, I do have this in log scale, well, it won't matter here now that I'm down to a 30-minute. But I think there's a reasonable case here that we're finishing this move up here, this five-wave structure. Get that right on there. And so I guess we don't need that anymore. So we know we've come down here to this zone and tagged the 50. All right, so what do we have here? Well, you can make a pretty strong case for an ABC here, right? So we have all the ingredients. We have an ABC. Now that's going to be a very shallow B wave, no doubt about it. So the alternate would be maybe this is 1, 2. Either way, you've got a very shallow retrace. I don't even think we make the 20. We might have made the 23. Well, we made the 38. So interesting. Take note here, right? So right into the Vegas wave, straight down. So there's a case to be made here for this some sort of an A. Looks like we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into an A wave. You got to allow for the shallow B. Now we've gone to and through second target. So just looking at where this might be going, well, it's pretty standard fare here. Right? If we're going to come back up to the 50, I would certainly be paying attention as we come up to the 50. Now note we do have a little bit of structure here. Do I have to do it? Might have to do it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, let's go to an hourly and see if or the 45. Maybe I can see it on the 45. Okay, so coming back up, right? So it's always a good idea to wick off potential area prior support where we might find some resistance. So let's get my, where's my line tool here? There's a horizontal. So we'd look right here. So that's of note here. So prior support could kick in for some resistance here. We've got to just look at the entire retrace all the way back here. So note we have this low volume node, and then again low volume here. So we just have a lack of market acceptance, and you can, it would make sense here in this free fall here. There's very little support on the way down. So if we were drawing this range, you'd see that this move down here was just, right, when they say the market goes up with the stairs, goes down in the elevator, that's exactly right. So that was just a free fall. So it's not surprising at all that that kind of free fall is being corrected. So then we just look here and say, well, where could we run into some resistance here that would be supportive, that would be in line with the structure of the market? So we've got to look here and think, well, if this is an ABC, there may be complexity here. So there's no way to get really aggressive about anything other than respecting the trend, which is currently down, since we've broken through. We've broken through just the normal retracement of what you might anticipate here, would be, back to the 3-4. This just, so think of it. Let me just put it this way. So if you look at let's go back to the hour. If you look at the length of time of this entire move, to make the assumption that the correction was going to be done in essentially 2 days, I'd be more inclined to anticipate some more complexity here. So I'd be looking for this. So if this is going to be a 3 wave, I'd be looking for another 3 somewhere in here. So 50 is a reasonable spot. So there's our algo footprint that we'd be looking for. So interestingly, we get this low volume node here, right here. Right? We just have less. It's not that there's no trading there. It's just that we have a little air pocket here of less market acceptance here. So this would be a reasonable place to look for a short. You've got a pretty steep range here that you'd be looking to give that enough room. So let the size dictate here. So maybe if futures is not the way you want to trade that, you could look at the QQQ or something that would be approximating this price action. But we can't ignore this 50. So it's the first trip back to the 50 that I would be paying attention to. So if we're going to get our algo footprint, I mean, it's pretty standard there. So that potentially could set us up on a larger degree to be doing something like this. So if that's an A, and if we were to come back here and get a C, then we'd have a more traditional correction. Now let me get that. Let's go up just a, now let's go put that in yellow. That's fine. Okay, so on a larger degree here, so then you kind of put that together and say, well, if we were going to get an ABC here, we were going to get our algo trade, right? Well, one thing we can be certain of, there will be software that will start selling here and will continue here. Now that, again, as I will often remind you, doesn't mean that we can't break through it, but we know that there's going to be selling pressure will kick in at that 50. Now, if it does it drive it down here, well, we won't know, but we can be certain about this dominant swing to dominant swing if we're going to make it all the way back up there. And then of course we could sort of line it up this way. So here's perhaps some prior resistance here at these little pivots here. So you can see this range here looks like it was important to the market. So just pulling that over in sync with this low volume node here. So resistance, support, breaks it, resistance, support. A little stall here. We got the first little reaction, but then we got the free fall. So I'd be looking in that range here. I think that depending on how you want to approach trading it. So if you're a futures trader, you know what to do here. The TQQ, or it could be a combination. So there could be something you could do here in the TQQ with some options to try and get some exposure to that move if we were going to get it. Now let's put that back into context. So if we go back to a 3 hour, where would that put us in the larger degree? Well, let's assume that we got our algo trade, right? Just for the sake of the discussion. Put us down here. So how is that going to look with regards to the dominant swing low here before we start this whole move, and then go up here? All right, well, isn't that interesting, right? So look where that puts the target. Right in the golden zone. So I think that is your next opportunity here. I would position yourself for that short if, right, we don't know that we're going to get there. But looking here, so again, so you don't have to wonder what happened here, right? So it's dominant swing, reaction at the 50. We know, we don't have to wonder. We know an algorithm kicked in to start buying there, thus the push off of it. Now, again, doesn't mean that will hold, but if you're looking at just a straight algo play here, which would be the logical way to approach this, does it fit in with the Elliott count? So if indeed off of this low, I've got a completed impulsive structure, and we finish with an ending diagonal. Right? I don't know that we need to go through that, but Well, we can do that. So the idea being here, if we're going to correct this, this would be an ideal zone for this correction to resolve. It would put us right back in the golden zone. It would be very consistent with where we're seeing these reactions. So this is just pure algo 101. It's just very straightforward. Boom, boom, boom. So I would suggest that that's an area to be paying attention to here. So if we come up here, I certainly would, at the very least, I'd want to be alerted. So if we approach that 50, I'd want to be alerted to know and see how that looks for a potential new trade. Right? It's got a long way to go to get there. So this may not get there today. It could be there before the end of the day. We just don't know. But that's a long move from where we are right now. Looks deceptive here on a 3-hour. And just to go back down, and let's see if I can finish it up here and going through this. If any of you were struggling to get this count up here, it's a little tricky because of the ending diagonal structure. So it would appear that if this is our 4, we get an ABC into a 1, then we get a deep 2. No doubt it's a deep 2, but it stays internal. Then we get an ABC into an A. Well, this is kind of here have to be ABC into the B. So here's the ABC into our 3rd. So why is it here? Why not ABC here? Because we would have. So if I look in here, so if we go to the length of the 1 projected from the 2, well, this gets us to beyond 100%. Now you could make a case that even so, if this were our 3. Well, the problem with that is that this would be our shortest wave. So I think we go ABC into an A wave, and this is kind of an ugly B. I acknowledge that. But then note what happens here. So if this, remember in a diagonal, we want to look for the relationship between the start of the 1 and the pivot of the 4. And it looks like we've got a little ABC and a little truncation in the C there. So if I grab this from the start of the 1 here, right here. So here's our 1 wave. And I go up to the 3rd. Well, look what happens. Whoop, get it right on there. Look what we get here, right? So I promise you that is not coincidence, right? So here's our 4. We're in between the 23 and the 38. Now that's shallow for a diagonal, but we did have this very big A wave before we got to that 3. So we're in the pocket for the 4th. There's a Vegas wave right there. We get a little ABC. So we end up with a 3, 3, 3. Well, 3 and then 3. So you've got that 5 threes is the combination here. ABC, ABC, ABC into the A, ABC into the B. So that gives us our ABC into a 3rd. So it's kind of an ugly diagonal, but this is clearly the tell. All right. So boom, they hit target, and talk about a reaction. So we don't have to wonder what happened there. We know what happened there. Okay, and we don't have to wonder what happened down here. We know what happened there. So I'd certainly pay attention. I'd want to know. So a good place to put a pivot, or excuse me, to put an alert would be right at that A wave pivot. If that's going to come challenging that, I would want to know about that and then tee up the trade, right? So hopefully it doesn't happen in the middle of the night, right? Depending on how you're approaching this, what asset you're going to use to trade it, if you're going to trade it. So if that is our A wave completing of a larger degree, that would certainly make sense. Very common for the A wave to come down to the 50 and then get a reaction. So the B wave, we know the B anywhere from the 50 to the 618. So this would pretty much be a textbook case for it. Let's go back to our hour. So A wave to the 50, B wave between the 50 and the 618, then back down to target would put us at our golden zone here. That would complete the correction and set us up for the potential to start that into a whole new trend, right? So so this is the potential. Do we get a 1 wave coming out of that? Or if we're going to keep breaking below, then we got to reconsider the count, and maybe this is just a 1, 2. Right, and we're going substantially lower. It's too soon to tell. I certainly would respect the longer-term trend, which, despite this move here, continues to be up. It's still bull's ball. The fact that we hold this 50, and look at that reaction. The fact that we hold that, it's still longer-term. It's bulls have the ball. So until we break some of these more significant 65s, you got to respect the longer-term trend, despite this little sell-off. So next opportunity I see is for a sell. I'd be looking for it in the B to try and trade the B into the C. But I'd sure, if we got that turn, I sure would be paying attention to that target down there as a potential entry on the long side. So it's set up to catch you the short from the B to the C, and then the buy into the C into what may well be the next leg up. All right, so that's what I see there, guys. I'll be back with, we'll do a little more detail on the S&P, but I think this is setting up rather nicely. So there you go. Right, as always, want to learn more about what we're offering, there's a link directly underneath this video. You can always give us a follow over on Twitter. We've got our public Discord that's free for all to join. So those are other options for you to kind of get a handle on this and start applying this to your trading. Okay, guys, be back to you in a little bit.